Using shoulder lines, hip lines, and bat lines are a good way to show hitters if they're getting into good, strong positions in different phases of the swing. For example, when using motion capture, you can use shoulder line, bat line, and hip line like we have in this diagram here to show a hitter if they're in good positions during these phases of the swing. Now, we can also use these lines to look at other metrics of the swing or other positions of the swing and takes guesstimations of measurements between body parts if we need to. So here we are in the stance, and really, philosophically, I don't think our stance matters as long as it's not negatively affecting the swing. As far as style biases go, I do like a traditional stance where the bat is not vertical, but slightly angled, so the knob or the bat line would be pointing towards the opposite batter's box and back slightly towards the catcher, just like this hitter is here. This traditional stance is something that I'm a fan of. There's not going to be any issues with this stance moving forward in the swing, so that's why I like it. Now, one of the things that I do try to look for in here is that shoulder angle is slightly down, so that's pointing slightly downward. So, as you can see, that shoulder angle, if I show an arrow, it's going down towards the pitcher. The other thing I like about this is that our angle between the forearm and the bat is at or around 90 degrees. And the angle between the shoulder line and the bat line, again, is at or around 90 degrees. And preferentially, I like that to be less than 90 degrees on this side of the bat, which means greater than 90 degrees on that side of the bat. Now, moving forward into the second phase of the swing, when we get to launch position, we can look here and we can see that the hips are starting to open. And in this hitter, the shoulders have actually tilted upward. Now, depending on where the pitch was on this, I would personally like to see those shoulders still working a bit down, but that's okay. One of the great things here is this batter has actually decreased the angle between the bat line and their forearm. And that's important because if we can maintain this position, this is going to give us a tighter turn with our torso and our bat, and it's going to allow us to turn that barrel later. So we're not going to have bat dump, we're not going to have, or barrel dump, we're not going to have a long swing. So that's important. If you'll also notice the angle between the bat line and the shoulder line, the bat line and the shoulder line is also less than 90 degrees, and that is important as well. That's something that we can look at when we're using these lines through different phases of the swing. Now, if we stop at the next phase, which is first move, so right when the hands begin, we can see the hips are open, and with this batter, this is right around where the hips start to decelerate and the torso accelerates. And you can see they maintained, forearm angle here, they maintained or kept a less than 90 degree angle. So they have not engaged or supinated that top hand yet. All right, they have not supinated that top hand to release the barrel. So they're going to have a nice tight turn, which also means that the bat angle is less than 90 degrees with the shoulder line on that side of the diagram. So that's good as well. As we move forward here, we get into early connection. In early connection, what we can do here is we can actually look and we can see. So our spine angle is right there. And from that spine angle, if we were having that bat grow right out of the back of this hitter, so if we could change this diagram, so we were looking at the back of the hitter, we'd see that bat is growing right out of the back at about 90 degrees. Another thing we can look at is the relationship between the bat line and the shoulder line, and that, again, is at 90 degrees, and that's very, very important. That's a good, strong position at early connection. So we can use these bat lines and shoulder lines to kind of check our connection if there's no other ways to check that connection like a bat sensor. Once we get to bat lag, we're still trying to look to see where the angle of that forearm, that lead forearm, is there. And the bat. And we can see we're right around 90 degrees there, which is excellent. And then our shoulder line here is starting to catch up to our hip line. And as we move forward, before we move forward, we can see now that that bat at bat lag is basically 90 degrees with the spine angle. And that's really good. That's a good piece of connection for this hitter. So if we can get to that connection, at 90 degrees here and maintain it into bat lag, that's going to help us as we go into impact. And at that connection at impact, if we think about that bat line growing out of the side of the spine here, we're right about 90 degrees, which is right where we want to be at connection. And one of the things we look for with the shoulder line and bat line in this position is that we're parallel at impact. And we are here, or we're close to that here. So that's very, very, very good. Now, those are some things that we can use the bat line, hip line, and shoulder line for. Now, obviously, if we don't have access to motion capture or an avatar like this, it could be difficult. So what we can do is we can actually use video from the side to do something very, very similar. Okay? And what we're going to do here is we're going to try to use the same lines here. So our shoulder line, we're going to use green. And you can see with our shoulder line here, he's got a slightly downward attacking angle. And then we'll use red with our hip line. Our hip line's right about there. And then our bat line right here. And you can see we have some of those very, very same angles we talked about. So the shoulders are working slightly downward. We've got less than 90 degrees on that side of our diagram there. And we're ready to go. Great, great position here. Now if we move forward and we get into launch position, and we'll do the same thing here. Our hip line is starting to work up a little. Our shoulder line, pretty level. Our bat line is now back behind our head more. So this is kind of significant here just because we've made that angle a little bit smaller, which hopefully helps us in our tight turn. When we get to our first move, hopefully we're maintaining that. So if we look, shoulder line there, hip line. So we've got our lines drawn, and we can see that's gotten a little bit bigger, but we're still at 90 degrees. We're still at 90 degrees between the bat and the forearm, which is good. We're not greater than 90. We are not greater than 90 there. But you can see with our hip line, our shoulder line, and our bat line where we're at. And again, we're under 90 degrees with the relationship with our bat and the shoulder line, which means that that can help make up for that loss of the angles with the forearm. Then it will move forward then from first move into early connection. And again, we can do the same thing. We can draw the lines through everything. Here's our bat line. Here's our hip line, which is now relatively level. And then our shoulder line is working up through here. So we can use this again, just like we did with that avatar. And you can see with our spine angle, here's our spine angle. If that bat was growing right out of the back of our spine, we'd be right at about 90 degrees here, which is a good, strong position. We're going to move in here to bat lag. And again, we can start to draw those same lines. Bat line, hip line, shoulder line. Okay, and again, that spine angle, I'll draw that with green. That spine angle's here. And if that bat was growing right out the back of the spine, we'd be in a real good position. Maybe a little bit less than 90, but that's still a good, strong position, good, strong bat lag position. And then as we get to contact, we can draw those lines again. So our bat line is there, hip line, and then shoulder line and bat line is where we're looking for that parallel relationship at contact. So when we talk about using the bat line, the hip line, and the shoulder line, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the hitter is getting into strong positions. So we're trying to look for some relationships like the bat in relationship with the shoulder line, early in the swing. We're trying to see if the hips are leading. We're trying to see if we're maintaining less than 90 degrees or 90-degree connection. All right, and then at impact or bat lag, or at impact rather, we're trying to make sure we're getting to the parallel position with that shoulder line and bat line. So the bat line, shoulder line, and hip line, they're just great ways to kind of illustrate to hitters where they are in different phases of the swing. And if we get into some weak positions, we can show them where they're at, and then we can address that by creating proper drills for each of those positions that they're lacking in.